Our text is definitely coming from Esther chapter 3, but you can't just preach on one little section of Esther. You've got to have a whole overview of the book. And we're going to do this as quickly as you possibly can with the most important information that we need for us to understand what God is doing in our lives today. It starts off with that there's a new queen in town. The old queen objected to her king, and she was cast away, and a great search was out. Who is the most fairest and most beautiful? And it was Esther. The Jewish girl was raised up, and she became the queen of the new king, or the old king. And everything was great and wonderful and fantastic. But there was a plot that went out to go ahead and destroy and kill the king. But cousin Mordecai, of Esther's cousin, discovered that plot, and he said, "Hey, king, someone is coming to kill you." And so Mordecai was raised up a level of happiness because he saved the plot that was to kill the king. He was raised up with great joy and happiness. But then along comes a situation where a man named Haman comes along and says to Mordecai, "Hey, Mordecai, I need you to bow down to me because I'm a representative of the king and he is worthy to be worshipped, and so therefore that's what you're going to do." Better breathe right there. And then Mordecai said, "No, I'm not going to bow down to any fake man, king, God thing. I will only give glory and praise and honor to my Father who is in heaven. I will only bow down to him." Well, this didn't set right with Haman at all. So then Haman, he had to go and talk with the king and said, "You know what? How would you react if someone wouldn't bow down to you as the king?" "Well, I would have him and all his people destroyed." So an edict went out that all the Jewish people were to be destroyed. And Haman was so happy and excited that this was going to occur. In fact, it was a fixed date in which this was to occur. It was going to happen on the 13th day of the 12th month. In our calendar, that would have been last Friday, exactly when I was researching this sermon out. And I go, whoa, that's coincidence? No, God doesn't work in coincidence. God works in history to make sure that our lives understand the whole big picture. So then we see a big thing happen. A great reversal. Just as we kind of reversed the Christmas story of having the kids acted out as told through the lines of adults, it was the adults that acted it out through the lines of the children. The great reversal in Mordecai's life is he's sentenced to die on the gallows. Not only him, but all the Jews. But then Queen Esther steps in. And he says to the king, "You know, king, if you find favor upon me," remind you of Mary, "if you find favor upon me," and God did find favor upon Mary and blessed her as the mother of Jesus. He says, "King, if you find favor upon me, what would you say if you knew the man that saved your life from the plot to kill you is going to be killed?" He says, "Well, that can't happen. That shouldn't be." Well, not only is he going to be killed, but all of his people are going to be killed. It's going to be a genocide. Every Jew from corner to corner is going to be killed on the 13th day of December. And so the king is thinking about all this, and Esther's saying, "Well, that's what's going to happen. That was your edict, that the man who saved your life is going to be killed." Does that seem right? No. So a new edict went out. And instead of Mordecai going to the gallows and being hung, it was reversed. It was Haman who was put to the gallows and killed for his selfishness, for what he thought he wanted to have done, being correct, good, and right. It's what we call in the Bible the great reversal. Well, how can I have a baby? I'm only 17 years old. I'm not even married. I'm just hanging out here doing laundry. And the angel appeared and gave her all the information. The weakest, most unexpected people are raised up. How can you be the queen? You were a little Jewish. Esther, how can you be the queen of all of this? Because God comes into our lives and he does great and amazing miracles. Here's what it says now in Esther. Then Mordecai went out from the presence of the king in royal robes of blue and white, with a great golden crown and robe of linen and purple, because he was declared innocent of the situation. And great happiness was coming upon the people, and the city of Susa shouted and rejoiced, and the Jews had light and gladness and joy and honor, and in every province and in every city, wherever the king's command and his edict reached, there was gladness and joy among the Jews, a feast and a holiday. It was like Christmas arrived. The bells were ringing out, we should be dead, but we are made alive to stay another day, another week, another year, whatever it may be. We who were sentenced to death have been saved. Christmas arrived for them. They didn't really know it as that. They look at it as a whole different viewing in history as the Jewish people, but it's what happened. We see the great reversal occur. The same thing that happened in Esther, from being no queen, but being very humble in spirit and in status of life, made the queen. We saw it in Mordecai, who was going to die on the gallows, but now has been raised up with fine linen and a crown. We see it in your life. You who should be hung on the cross has been reversed and someone else took your spot. Jesus, who should be crowned in all splendor and glory in heaven forever and ever and ever, decides, no, I must come into the manger. I am going to become humble so that you all can be saved. It's the great reversal in your life as well. We who should be headed to the gallows are now saved by the great joy of Jesus Christ. This is what causes us to sing this week, next summer, and for an eternity, because our death sentence has been revoked. A new edict has arrived. We who should have been sentenced to eternal death, Christ has come in and has taken our spot and has raised us up and has given us the great gift of all time, the great Christmas gift, everlasting life in Jesus. So when Christmas comes, we get very comforted by the lights, comforted by the colors, comforted by the trees, comforted by the gifts and the songs and the good cheer of people. But all that is meaningless apart from the great reversal. Jesus coming to be born in a manger. Jesus coming to take our spot on the cross. The great reversal is always Jesus taking your spot. And with great joy and happiness, we realize that our sin, which should put us on the cross, was placed upon him instead. It is our great gift. Jesus' arrival unto everlasting life. Jesus taking our spot on the cross. And so our response is with great happiness and joy. Our comfort is not in the candles, the lights, the gifts, the presents, the beautiful trees, the singing of the songs, the great joy and peace that can be all done throughout creation. Those are all responses to the great reversal. Jesus Christ has been born for you. Esther understood. I have nothing and received everything. Mordecai understood. I have nothing and have been given everything. Haman stood his ground. It's all about me. It's how I want it, the way I want it, when I want it, and here's how it's going to be. He simply made himself God. And of course, to the gallows that goes. The painful sin of death. But praise be to God, we have been released in the great reversal. We have been given the great joy. Esther prepares us for Jesus' coming, for his arrival. We who have nothing to sing about have been given the eternal songs of Christmas and Easter, ascension and everlasting life, all rolled up into our lives. Esther has prepared us. For those of us who had nothing have been given everything. Christmas has been prepared for all those characters of history that are working through the goodness of God's coming in Jesus' form. God placing his hand on each of us, whispering in our ear, yelling it from the mountaintops. For unto you a child is come. He shall be called Jesus, because he's going to take your sins away. And that is what has happened. Our response cannot be hindered by the world. Our response is giving that love and the blessings that we received from Jesus himself unto us towards one another. That's Christmas. Christmas coming straight to you. It has arrived. We who should be on the gallows have been saved because of the loving hand of God in the Son of God, Jesus himself. Amen.